Progress daily. In order to get the opportunity, you must show up by any means, whatever it takes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Andy Audate podcast. I'm Lory Audate, the co-host for Andy Audate Show, and together we explore topics about business, sales, and SaaS. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm phenomenal. Just got done with a webinar presentation, and now I'm here with you, able to add value on our episode on our show.
Yes, we actually got some content of you behind the scenes of a webinar, and you made a good point because I'm thinking like, oh, you probably do this once a month, but you're like, this is like the second one today.
Yeah.
So, how many webinars do you think you do in a week? With that being said,
So group presentations. So today I've done two. It's 2:00 in the afternoon, and I've done two presentations so far. Two group presentations. I spoke to one group was 90 people, just under 90 people. So it was 89 people and then another one was 74. So total today was 163 different business owners that I spoke to today, and that's just within the last couple of hours.
right? It sounds like that's one of the powerful elements of group presentations because you could have spent the last 6 hours doing one-on-one, but you did two presentations and reached a lot more.
Yeah. Like imagine like the time frame for me to spend, for example, in that scenario, 163 people tuned in. So that's equivalent to me talking to 163 people at one time. So if I did the math and I spent, let's say 30 minutes, or let's just say round up to an hour, right? A follow up and so forth. That's 163 hours. That's 163 hours that I would have to spend. So if I had back to back calendars, eight hours a day, it would take me about 21 days to complete what I did in the last 2 hours. So it will take 21 days of one-on-one calls for me to complete what I did in the last 2 hours.
And that would also take you away though from doing anything else. That's like back-to-back sales. You're not doing business development, product development, leading the team or anything like that. You would just be call after call.
Yeah. And if you remember years ago, that's how my calendar was. That's why I do it this way today. When Laura and I first started dating years ago, I was just back-to-back calls. It was every 30 minutes I had a call in between in between calls. I would try to take a bite of food and so on and so forth. And it would be 9 hours of just straight calls. And that was the start of my digital marketing journey. And today I don't have to do that anymore. I just do group presentations.
Very true. Well, that actually takes me into today's topic. I want to dive deep into your journey, not just as a business owner, but specifically your sales journey. Could you share a little bit more about how you started in a sales role, maybe low ticket, you got up to mid ticket, high ticket, and now you're in a position where you lead a team? But what have been the key elements in your sales journey to now be able to do something like this, which is group sales presentation and leading a team with that?
Yeah. So my sales journey started when I was selling self. Well, first of all, I had to sell my mom on like things, right? So that's one version of selling. But the actual generation of type sales started when I was selling cell phones at a kiosk or in a store, and it transitioned to a kiosk over time, which is harder than in store, actually. By the way, so it's harder to sell in a kiosk than it is in a store. But I can get into that I can get into that if you want me to. However, so I was selling cell phones, and they taught me the sales process on how to sell cell phones. And what's interesting about the cell phone sales is very competitive. So if you're selling cell phones, you actually have understand strategies, you understand building relationships, you understand presenting value that for a product that everyone else can sell, right? You're not the only person selling an iPhone. You're not the only person selling a Samsung Galaxy. So in cell phone sales, it's actually quite challenging. People would think that it's easy. It's actually quite challenging because everyone feels like they're selling a phone, right? You had Best Buy Mobile back then. You had Best Buy Mobile. You had T-Mobile, AT&T. In my store that I used to work at, I would have like AT&T right next door to me, Best Buy Mobile right across from me, T-Mobile right across from me, one T-Mobile brand right across from me, and they were rising just down the hall, especially in the malls when I used to run cell phone stores in the malls. And it's very competitive because you're all selling a similar product, and you only get paid when you sell a phone. You only get commission.
So, with that being said, selling the cell phones, how does that translate now to you doing webinars and having a software business, at one point having a coaching business? And the reason I ask is I've noticed, at least with our team through the years, is many times there's like a mental block with amount, like high ticket sales in particular. What did it take for you to go from I'm selling a cell phone, whatever X amount that was, to now I'm selling way, higher amounts? What did it take from you in your journey?
I think number one, um, I think number one, the journey for me was belief. That was the number one thing, is I had to have belief in myself. So when I was selling cell phones, I would always like stutter my communication, and I would always, because I knew in the back of my head like there's another vendor down the hall, and I had to understand and believe that I was the one that was serving the customer the best compared to anyone else. That was number one. And then number two was I just had to get comfortable with different price points. So it started off with the $99 phone, then it transitioned to the $150 phone, then it came to the $200 phone, and then $500 phone, and then $600 phone, and then $997 phone. So that was a lot of the sales for me. That was my sales journey. Then I saw something interesting. I left the cell phone industry and I came into the coaching space, in the coaching speaker world. And I remember being one of my mentors. So I used to sell tickets for Les Brown, and I used to be part of his sales team in the Les Brown coaching program. And I remember one day my mind was completely shifted. There was a lady on a call, and she was on a call with my mentor. And my mentor had this lady sign up for a $5,000 program. And that's where everything changed for me. In that moment, she said, "Okay, let's do it." And she had every objection in the book of why she couldn't sign up. Her job, she's getting older, her husband, and everything that objection in the book. But she signed up, and I saw this lady go through this transformation of actually creating confidence with herself. She never cared. After she paid the $5,000 investment, and she went through the program, and she started to transform her speaking and her business and her brand and her mindset. She never cared about the $5,000, but in the middle of the sales call, she cared so much, like that she was so attached to this $5,000. So I saw my mentor guide this lady to go from lacking confidence in herself and her decisions, lacking confidence in her ability to invest, things of that nature, to by the end of the call, maybe an hour and a half, 2-hour call, it was me and probably like 6 other guys around this conference telephone in a conference room. And my mentor is talking to this lady, and she's talking to him, and he's talking to her, and we're all like around this listening, going back and forth. And at the end of the call, she's like, "All right, you know what? You're right. Let's do it." And she paid right then in our call. And me and like 6 other guys are looking at each other like, what the heck? What did we just see? Now, to the lady, it felt like she was just talking to him because it was just a conversation between him. But we were watching, and that's when my mind opened up, and I said, "Whoa, so you just made $5,000?" He's like, "I just made $5,000." I said, "Man, even in the cell phone business, as a sales rep, to make $5,000, it's going to take you some time. Even in the cell phone business, it's going to take you some time." And he just made it in an hour-long call. That's when like my mind completely shifted, and then I went on the journey of high ticket sales.
Now, this does, and I agree with you that once you see someone else in your immediate circle, like I'm not talking, you see someone on YouTube, right? Because they're still kind of like a celebrity, or you might have, you may think I don't have the actual behind the scenes if you're just watching, someone closing a deal on YouTube. But one of my first roles out of college was $40,000 loans, but I went from customer service to the inbound sales. And I remember thinking like, this is crazy. Who would sign up for a $40,000 personal loan at 35.55 like APR? but they had such an amazing training, and it took a lot of listening to my calls, understanding the objection, getting ready for the next time. So there was a lot of tactical steps that went into me being able to do $40,000 loans, then in the future, higher ticket things like real estate. Did you have that type of training in your journey as well, where your mentors were literally beside you saying, this is what you could have done different, this is the next steps? Or was it you just taking the experience each time and running with it?
Yeah, I was consistently learning. So in the beginning, it started with me like having the mentor there to show me what was possible. I think that was the big thing. But you don't know what you don't know until you do it, right? It's one thing to see someone else do it, but it's another thing to see someone else to do it yourself and say, okay, this is what I got to shift. For example, recently I was on a sales call with one of my team members, and my team member was going through like the offer, like you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that. And I just could tell that the prospect that was on the call was, in my experience, was standoffish. Now, the sales representative that was on the call could have been, they didn't see that. They didn't see that per se. And when I jumped on the call, one of the things that I mentioned is, excuse me, do you believe that we can actually help you to grow your business? And the person said, yes, actually, Andy, I don't know. I don't. And I said, aha. She doesn't even believe. She doesn't have absolute certainty that we can help her. So it's not about negotiation, about price and so on and so forth, which that's what most salespeople would do, is that they'll negotiate and they'll say, okay, I'll get you the cheaper price. When I asked that person, do you actually believe that we can help you? And the person said, you know what, I don't know. And then I looked at their journey in our system. Now, we have clients that has been with us for years. So when you call them and you say, hey, I'm calling from Andy Audate's office, they're like, oh, I know Andy. I've been either in your funnel for years, or I've attended his events, I've gone to his presentations, things of that nature, or they're already customers. But in this person's scenario, they came into our funnel 3 days ago, and we were treating that person as if they've been a long-term customer, which the communication is different, right? So when you say Andy Audate to a long-term prospect or a long-term customer, they're like, I know there's value there when it comes to Andy. But if it's someone who just came in 3 days ago and they downloaded something for free on our website, and they're like just checking us out, then we can't contact them like a long-term customer. I was able to spot that within 60 seconds of understanding of getting on that call. I'm like, you don't see that we can actually help you. Let me ask to confirm. When I asked, I was damn near right? She's like, I don't know. So I share that with you because it takes experience, and the way that you're gonna grow in sales is more reps, just as many reps as possible. It's kind of like working out. What's the difference between working out for fatigue, right? What's the difference between working out for fatigue and then working out and your body experience injury? Most professional lifters or people who lift quite often, they're able to tell, like, okay, my arm is giving out, not because I'm tired, but something's about to break. And they're able to slow down, versus someone who's like brand new to working out. They start lifting and they're like, oh, it just feels weird. It must be working. And then they end up injuring themselves. Same thing in sales.
So, being that you went through the learning curve and you said, I took in the information, ran with it, whether mentors, experience, what type of shift did it take from you to now lead a sales team? Because the topic for today is building and leading a Salesforce team that delivers. What did it take going from, you're a top producer and you know that, right? You can go into any organization, you could sell any product, pretty much whatever sales goal you have, you hit it. But then what does it take to remove yourself from that role to be, I'm the top producer, and now you have to lead other people that are essentially starting where you were 10 years ago?
Yeah, leadership is an interesting thing, because like, to lead other people, you got to be able to do it first. So that's the first thing, is I had to do it first. I had to get the results myself. That was first. The second thing is that I have to understand where people are at and understand that their journey, and not get frustrated if they're not doing well or as I expected. The number 3 thing is how I coach them. The way that I coach is I make an effort to identify what that person did right and what they could have done differently rather than what's wrong. So when I coach somebody, I'm not going to go to them and say, man, you messed up on this sale. That's not what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, hey, what did you do right? Okay. And you explain what you did right. And then what could you have done differently? If I see what you see, if you're telling me the exact same thing that I would tell you, then perfect. You understood your challenge, and now you can essentially solve it. You can solve. If you see something differently, so let's say, for example, I'm talking to a salesperson. Now, there's 4 steps. There's 4 steps to the sales process for almost every product. You greet the customer to build rapport. You qualify them. That's step number 2 is to qualify. So first one is greet. The second one is to qualify. Third one is to present the offer or the solution. And then the fourth one is to close. Ask for the sale, to ask that person to make an investment. Now, in this 4-step sales process, let's say that someone skips the qualification. Qualification, what that could look like is, what has you interested in our product? How will this product help you? How long have you been trying to solve this problem? Right? Asking questions to understand what to sell to the customer. If you skip that and you just say, hi, welcome to, let's say, Andy Audate's office. It's a pleasure to have you here. Now, on this call, I'm going to tell you about our coaching program. And in our coaching program, it is so valuable for your business, and it's going to help your business grow your income. It's going to help you grow your revenue for the top line of your business. We market specifically on social media. And then when you get a lead from social media, our system is going to automatically follow up and nurture that contact and to set up a sales appointment on your calendar. And then the price of it is $749 a month. What happens when that person says, I'm on this call because I don't have a business?
Right.
I don't have a business. And on top of that, the reason I'm on this call is because I heard Andy mention that there's strategies to streamline and automate sales appointments. And I don't want to do any of those sales appointments, but I want to have like automated sales presentations. So everything you just shared with me was incorrect. I don't want sales appointments. I heard Andy talk about that. What I want is automated webinar presentations that Andy talked about. And I have a job, so I'm not able to do all these things that you're talking about. And then the salesperson is going to be there like, okay, well, that didn't work. So this is skipping the qualification and going straight to the presentation. In that scenario, I'm just going to say, hey, this is what you could have done right. This is what you did right. But this is also what you could have done differently.
Right. So you are able to identify where their areas of improvement are. And because you already did sales, you know what it takes essentially to close. What are your thoughts? And this is personal opinion, right? What are your thoughts on the business owner that says, I just started the business, I have the idea, I have the concept, but I'm going to throw a brand new salesperson in there, and they never closed not one deal. They just said, here's a script, here, go do it, report back to me, and kind of just pass it on to the employee because they don't like sales. They like the other parts of the business. What are your thoughts on that business model?
I think that what you got to do is that's not fair, but what you have to do, if you're in that scenario, you're going to need to actually do sales yourself. That's what you got to do. The first thing, you got to do sales yourself. So you got to take your experience, and then what you're doing is duplicating your experience. I've seen business owners, what they'll do is that they'll go ahead and hire someone and say, you're in the sales department, I need you to go and sell. And then you're like, they get on a call or they meet with a client, but they don't actually close any deals. And you're like, why didn't you close any deals? I know if I was there, I would have closed deals. And it's easy for you as the business owner to say that, but what's different is that you'll actually have the experience. So you're going to need to actually go ahead and sell yourself. That's the first step, is for you to go ahead and sell yourself. Now, once you have the skill set of selling, then when you put someone else in that role, you're going to be able to identify what they did it right, what they could have done differently, what's ineffective, and what is effective. So the starting point for before building any sales team is actually just doing the sales yourself, building that skill set, and then sharing and teaching someone else on how they can essentially duplicate your results.
So you don't agree with that? I know that was a very political, but you're saying don't do that, right? Just from experience, they just probably won't get any sales.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. You laugh at my political answers because I don't answer the question.
Yeah,
Yes or no.
I always tell you after the podcast, but you never answered the question.
Yeah, I know you. I should be a politician, huh?
Yeah. Well, the reason
Andy Audate for president 2028.
There you go. Well, with that being said, because it sounds like it's almost like what comes first? Do you build the sales team first because it can help the business grow, or does the business owner have to commit to a certain amount and then bring people in? Because also a business owner can only do so much. So in your journey, when did you identify it made the most sense to bring a salesperson? Because in theory, usually that's the first person hired to increase revenue, which that helps with the ops and things like that, operation costs.
It made sense to hire teams when my sales work became overwhelming. So we hired sales team members when my sales became overwhelming. So my calendar was full, 9 hours a day, back to back. Every 30 minutes, I had a sales call. Every single 30 minutes, I had a sales call. And we would run ads, we would run different campaigns, we would run automations, funnels to book these sales calls. So my marketing campaign was working. The problem was it was taking a lot of my time. And the only times, and then from there, I said, hey, I can actually keep the same amount of sales if I hire someone and give them half of these appointments. And that's what we did. I said I hired someone, and then I hired another person and another person, and just kept on going. But we gave them half of the appointments, and then to the point where now today I'm able to just do group presentations and put a large people inside of a group.
Got it. And so it's once you're overwhelmed, you're back to back, like it makes more sense for me to delegate, these appointments, and you only do a percentage now. When does it make sense to bring software and the automations for the sales teams? When does that make sense to bring into the business?
To bring software, I mean, you want to do it early on, because the software for the sales team is not actually for the sales team, it's for you to organize your business. And that's what creates value for the sales team, is that your business is organized. So the first thing that you want to get is like a software like Progretta, which will allow you to keep all your contacts in one place, notes of your customers. So if they have specific information about them, you can keep that on the contact record, and so on and so forth. So it's allowing your business to be organized. That's the first thing that you want to do before you even bring a sales team. You want to have an organized place to have all your contacts, their name, their email, their phone number in one place. So that way, as you generate leads, you generate sales opportunities, they're all in one single place that you can have access to, whether it's on your phone or on the computer.
Right, because I think sometimes there's a difference as a business owner where one overwhelming day or one overwhelming week doesn't necessarily give enough leads and opportunities for a brand new salesperson, right? So an example would be like what you just mentioned. How are you going to have a full-time commission only salesperson if you don't have the leads? Like who are they going to call?
Yeah, that's good. That's what they're gonna say. Their first day is like, all right, now I'm on your team. Who do I call? You're like, well, I have this person on my phone book. I have this other person on my phone book. I have this person on a sticky note. This person on a email. And it's like, man, I can't follow this process. And that's when you start losing people. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have the right technology, and that's where Progretta steps in.
Gotcha. So with the journey that you've been on, the experiences, it went from you had to master the skill of selling, closing, qualifying, the step that you mentioned, to then identifying when you bring in the sales team. First, it comes with software, then the sales team. What is one action step? A business owner that's listening to this and they're not necessarily starting a business, but let's say that they've already felt that pain point of I'm doing all the calls, I'm the only closer right now. What is one action step that you would recommend to them so that they can continue to grow the business, but it's not just falling all on their calendar?
For sure. The first thing I would suggest is to record your sales calls. So that way you can give your salespeople in the future that you hire an opportunity to see what it's actually like. So record the sales calls that were effective. Record the sales calls that were ineffective. The sales calls that you lost a sale and how you handle that. Also the sales calls that you got the sale. So that way they can see what success looks like, but also understand what failure in a sales call looks like. That's going to be the first step to start giving your team the opportunity to duplicate your results.
Got it. Well, there you have it. It starts with recording yourself, listening to yourself too,
Yes.
and identifying what can be improved for the next sales calls. I'm sure we'll have another portion of this because this is just the overview, and I definitely want to go into tactics and things of that sort. But thank you so much for your time, Andy, and I'll see you on the next one.
I'm so glad that we're doing this.